Yeah. Hello. Adam Distorts Sexuality. I'm going to do another reading from one of my favorite books of all time, Sex and God by Darrel. There will be links to the other ones. I'm going to be doing it all over the internet. But I do some on Facebook. I do some here on YouTube. You just never know where people just tune in to their information. I just have to do my ritual. You know how we do. If you know how I do. So, just have to indulge in the first invention ever. Just trying to spread some light. So I had already read the introduction from Sex and God. So I'm going to just read another couple pages, 2 or 3 pages, and intersperse it with a little bit of my own experience. But for the most part, I just like to just really share this information because it's dope. What he has to say is really dope. Peace to Darrel. Darrel is telling the truth. So here we go. Anna and Joe. Anna smiles at Joe as she unbuttons her blouse. They met in an adult singles Sunday school class 4 months ago, and their relationship has really blossomed. She's ready to sleep with him, and he knows he will become her husband within a year. Joe reaches towards Anna, watching her lovingly. But as he slips down her bra strap and kisses her shoulder, Anna realizes someone is watching her. Jesus. The crucifix Aunt Mary gave her eons ago glares at her from the wall. The Bible on the bedstand, unread for weeks, seems to bristle. Instead of tasting desire, the bitter taste of sin fills her mouth. Flooded with shame and guilt, Anna takes a step back. I can't do this, she tells Joe. Most adults feel like they're making their own choices. But for adults like Anna who live in a religious culture, many of these choices have already been made for us. We're not even aware that our sexual identity is being throttled by a tyrannical set of impossible religious restrictions. Real talk. But those are for those who have religious morals lingering in their sexuality. And they linger stronger than people would like to admit, even those who don't go to church and who aren't Christians typically. But people still feel bodily shame and still have Christian visions of heaven and hell, even if they aren't Christian Bible thumpers and weekly Sunday churchgoers. So it's a constant process of purging one's sexual identity from any Christian touched morals and doing what the fuck you want. Choices. This book is about choices. Choices that were made for you and new choices that you can make. You may be restricted in the choices that you make about your sexuality by ideas you have never questioned. Ideas that do not appear to have anything to do with religion. Some choices were made for you before you were even born. Some choices were cut off, some were prohibited, some were forced on you. Others felt like reasonable choices when you made them, but now you realized they were determined by the religious ideas and training you received. Even if you were not raised in a religious home, you were raised in a religious culture. That's what I'm saying. Even though from the way that kids talked about sex in elementary school to the laws your legislators are passing today, real talk, sexual choices are being made for you based on religious assumptions. How are your choices being restricted? If you live in a Christian community, you will learn that God is always watching you. If you have impure thoughts, God knows. If you masturbate, God sees. If you have sex before you are married, God will punish you. It's not true. You may be told you cannot marry someone you love because he or she is the same sex as you or gender. Preachers tell you that you don't need birth control because you shouldn't be having premarital sex. Or that's nuts. You also hear that masturbation will injure your marriage. You learn that the instant of conception is when some God plants a soul into the embryo, and therefore it is a sin to stop the development in any way. Not true. Do you know how many animals in nature have miscarriages and stillbirths, and how many animals have their own versions of incomplete pregnancies. Like, it happens. It just happens. So, if you are a female and living in a Muslim country, you may be prohibited from choices about mates or about control of the body. You may be forced to marry a man with other wives. You may have no choice about premarital sex. In fact, you may be killed for making that choice. That is not an exaggeration at all. As a Muslim boy, you will be taught how to treat and control women, that they are subservient to you. You will read in the Quran that your wife is always supposed to be ready to have sex, even if she is in the midst of cooking a meal. They have an excerpt from wow. I won't go into the excerpts. It's wow. Unless you are in a more sex positive minority religion like pagan, Wicca, or Unitarian, you will never be taught the joys of sex. The religious messages from priest, minister, Sunday school teacher, or imam are all focused on the role sex plays in God's plan. If you choose to have sex in any way that is not blessed by your particular God, you are sinning and subject to eternal punishment. Lies. If you belong to one of the more liberal religions, you may not get the harsh messages, but the choices are still narrowed by your God. That's so real. You may still feel guilty or uncomfortable about your son or daughter having a sex life in college. You may have difficulty understanding your nephew's choice to marry a man. And no matter how liberal your religion, the laws of your state may make you a felon whenever you have sex in anything but missionary position. It may be illegal for you and your spouse to use sex toys. Even liberal people may find it difficult to talk about their fantasies and sexual desires. That's so real. Come on. It's real. These inhibitions and ideas probably came from the many subtle signals that surround all of us in our religious culture. All cultures have some rules and ideas about sex and sexuality, but the major religions have taken sex and sexuality as the strict purview of their god or gods. The major God, usually, they're not monotheist. The major religions seek to restrict sexual expression for no apparent reason other than to propagate their particular dogma. Human sexuality is vast in its expression. That's so real. As a porn actor, I just see more and more, newer, wilder, deeper, intimate, passionate, unbelievable things every day. There is no limit to what the human body can do. Even a cursory study of other cultures finds many different forms of sexual expression. If other cultures can survive for tens of thousands of years without the religious rules of Islam, Mormonism, Hinduism, or Christianity, what purpose do religious restrictions and religious guilt serve? Why is masturbation a non-issue in modern secular Europe, but still disapproved of by the Catholic Church? Illogical. How is gay marriage a threat to marriage when Christian divorce rates in the United States are the highest in the most evangelical and fundamentalist states? How is homosexuality destructive of a culture when many North American native cultures and many ancient cultures, including Greece, celebrated homosexual relationships in song and legend? If you don't know anything about Greece if you don't know what gymnasiums are about, and you don't know how they used to have, what did they talk about in Greece? They said there's supposed to be a man had a wife, a concubine, and a gay boy. That's what a complete man had. He had 3 people to fuck, like wife for making children and family, concubine for sexual pleasure, and like gay boy for that connection. Look it up. Anyways, religion is about restricting sexual choices in the interest of the religion. Many beliefs and assumptions came from your religious upbringing and environment. Assumptions that you may have unknowingly picked up from your devout grandmother, a prudish Sunday school teacher, or a religious gym coach. Religious sexual ideas can infect you, especially when you are young and unable to think critically. We hold many sexual myths as facts, and most of them come from religion. That is so real. So many sexual myths are thought of as facts, and religion is the thing that did this to people's minds. It needs real unlearning. Ironically, much of the evidence to dispute these myths can be found in our everyday lives. That is the power of religious myth. It can blind us to the obvious. For real. So I'm going to end on this interesting note. I'm going to read like another chapter, half chapter. Living a lie. Is this so real? Living a religious sexual lifestyle is tantamount to living a lie. Religion distorts our sexuality when the majority of religious people live one life for the public and another in private. It can be as simple as living a happily married couple when you are both miserable with your sex life. As a good Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, or Mormon, you must deny and pretend that you don't masturbate, all the while abusing yourself regularly. Hypocrisy. Illogical hypocrisy. You must condemn pornography even as you use it. You must preach against lustful thoughts even if you can't avoid them. You must condemn your spouse or others for certain sexual ideas, thoughts, and preferences even when you have them as well. You must tell your children how bad premarital sex is even when you have had several sexual partners before you were married. Hopefully. In sum, most religious people live a double life. When I refer to religious people, I mean those who adhere to the mainstream ideas and beliefs of Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Mormonism, etc. We know from the decades of research that the religious are no different from the secular people when it comes to sexual behavior. They just feel more guilty about it. I'm going to throw that out there on the internet. The result is a dishonest life. While secular people can live openly with their sexuality, negotiate ethically between partners about preferences and behaviors, enjoy fantasies and experimentation, religious people are constrained from being open and forthright because they view many things about sex as sinful. Nevertheless, they do it, hide it, and deny it. Religions of all kinds use our powerful sex drives to infest us with ideas that benefit the religion and hurt and inhibit our ability to truly be human. I fuck with that. Religion's goal is to propagate religion. That's really it. Sex is one powerful method for achieving this. That's the thesis of this book. The social and psychological toll of living a lie includes emotional numbness to our own sexuality and often anger and aggression towards those who live a more open and honest sexuality. That's so real. Christopher Hitchens illustrated this best when he said, I always take it for granted that sexual moralizing by public figures is a sign of hypocrisy or worse, and most usually a desire to perform the very act that is most being condemned. This is why, whenever I hear some big mouth in Washington or the Christian heartland banging on about the evils of sodomy or whatever, I mentally enter his name in my notebook and contentedly set my watch. Sooner rather than later, he will be discovered down on his knees in some dreary motel or latrine with an expired Visa card, having tried to pay well over the odds to be peed on by some Apache transvestite. From Hitch 22. Hitchens' observations rings true for more than public figures. Average religious people may not make headlines, but their crises are as devastating to individuals and families. When a good Christian wife finds her husband harboring pornography, she may be appalled and find that she can't enjoy sex with him anymore. Sad. When a good Christian man finds his wife having an online erotic exchange with another woman, he may be so hurt he eventually asks for a divorce. When Christian parents catch that their 14-year-old son was kissing another boy, they may resort to incredibly cruel language and treatment. For real, it still happens. It happened last night, last weekend, last month. You know what? That hasn't changed. Going as far as beating or ostracizing him. A Muslim father, learning that his daughter is secretly writing love letters to a boy, may go into a rage that results in a severe beating or worse. The list goes on, yet none of these offending behaviors is wrong or abnormal except in the light of religious insanity about sex. How can someone be honest about normal, harmless behavior when it leads to social sanctions and psychological abuse in the name of religion and religious beliefs? Sexual beliefs are manufactured by religion and have no basis in reality. I repeat, sexual beliefs are manufactured by religion and have no basis in reality. Believing and living according to these ideas leads to more broken marriages, sexual dysfunction, child abuse, and more. Without religion, none of these examples would come to such an end. Children would have no need to feel ashamed of perfectly normal behavior. Spouses would have room to negotiate sexual desires and needs in ways that would have healthy ideas that would respect both parties and lead to loving and sexually gratifying lives. Parents would have healthy ideas about normal sexual behavior and development and be able to teach their children skills for decision making about their own bodies. Word up. So I'm going to go into the toxic trio after that. 3 key beliefs in modern religion that lead to sexual distortions, sexual terror, and that support the myths. I'll just drop the 3 here and then we'll go into them deeper next time. Belief in the afterlife. Belief in a voyeuristic, all-knowing God that determines your status in the afterlife. Belief that the God dictates a specific kind of sexual behavior to the exclusion of all others as a condition for entry into the afterlife. Booyah! Bam! Take those, think about it, and make your own love. Peace from mind, Bender Supreme, Malcolm Lovejoy, Adam U. Stewart, local, professional, international, dream maker supreme, goddess worshiper, sex education teacher, and your friend. Good day.